What a crazy week we've had.
What people don't know is that you and I are communicating all during the week, and I have a little bit of a drive after I get out of here, and my phone was lighting up with stuff. Did you see this happen? Did you? Well, I'm driving, no, I didn't see it, but you're right. Instantly, as soon as we were off the air. And the same thing for this morning.
Rich Reynolds, our US correspondent, everybody. Yeah, I mean, normally we kind of pull a few things together. Then sort of Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we kind of put it all to bed and get things ready for today. But it's just not like that now, is it? We're still furiously hammering away right now, all the live feeds and what's happening, because it's changing by the minute, literally. US politics, what a whirlwind.
I really want to go live somewhere else. I do. It's too much. It's just, and I talk to my friends back in the States, and I communicate with them by text and that sort of thing, and literally everybody is freaking out. They can't figure out which way it's going. And he's been in office for 2 weeks. It's just insane as to who's in charge. And he's got Musk, who is his friend.
First buddy, I think he's known as.
First buddy.
First buddy.
And I'm telling you, this guy who has no authority, he's not a paid politician.
Yeah, but he's got the passwords.
He's got all the passwords. I'm telling you, it's insane.
You've actually given one of the biggest businessmen in the country, who's not even American, actually, I should add. Or maybe he is now, but he wasn't born there. But you've given him all the social security numbers and things.
He's got everything.
And he runs one of the biggest tech companies. He's got all your information.
Of course.
Anyway.
Of course. And when we get to a story we're going to do later about what's going on in South Africa, his hands are in that too.
Well, he would be. That's where he was born.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't want to leap ahead of ourselves here, but we better get on with it, because there's plenty to talk about this afternoon. I'm going to keep an eye on the live stuff as well, because we've got a couple of people, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard today, who are facing their Senate votes for their respective posts. So we'll see where we are with that. We'll keep it up, and just in case things change.
Well, in a week ago, I would have taken bets about the two of them not being confirmed, but now I don't know. Now it looks
anything could happen.
Anything could happen. So I would say, if you're a betting man, bet on the fact that they're going to be approved.
Okay, let's start with first buddy, Elon Musk.
Yeah.
2 weeks of chaos across Washington is the headline, and he's only just started.
I think that's the best way to put it. It's absolute chaos. Nobody knows who's in charge, and Trump has pretty much gone to him and said, make some changes, go do what you want. And as you pointed out, given him the passcodes and the ability to fire people, which he clearly does not have.
Close down departments, send people home.
Yeah.
Put them on gardening leave.
They wanted to set, for all of you who are following this is old news, but he wanted to fire 2 million people. He wanted to fire everybody who's an employee of the government. And the problem is that he doesn't have the authority to do that. There are certain departments where you can get away with doing that.
Yeah, but he's been backed up now by the president, hasn't he? So
yeah, but the president also doesn't have the constitutional right to fire everybody.
None of that seemed to have mattered this week, to be honest.
But he's firing good people and bad people. And can you imagine? You work. There aren't too many jobs that are more secure than working for the government.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's
generally,
it's pretty secure. And these are all people, as I pointed out to somebody before I went on the air, that they have mortgages, and they're paying for school, and they're buying groceries, and they have car payments, just like everybody else.
And they're career government employees. They've committed themselves to the government. I know you touched on this before, didn't you? And what a surprise and a shock for them this week, because they have no idea where they are.
No, that's very true. But the big question is, does he have the right to do that? Mm-hmm. And does Trump even have the right to do that? And the answer in many cases is no, he doesn't.
But he's doing it.
He's doing it. But the fact is that these people are not. They're not going away necessarily, but he's just locking these buildings. He says the doors are...
Well, they've been locked out of their computers as well. They can't get in.
That's right.
So speaking of USAID, so certainly they can't.
So whether or not they actually lose their jobs, I don't really know if that's going to happen. But there's enough confusion to where there are going to be lawsuits on and on and on for the next couple of months about these people trying to get their jobs back, and it's insane.
Meanwhile, they were a number of them were just offered, weren't they? Payoffs, and around 20,000 federal workers in the last minute, we're hearing, have accepted the Trump buyout offer.
Well, if you say so, I hadn't seen it.
It's just come in now.
Okay,
I told you better keep an eye on things because it's going to change while we're talking, and it just did.
Cal has access to a monitor, which I do not, but I believe you 100%. But 20,000 people, they're offering about 8-month buyout, something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't a lot of employees that need to lose jobs.
And there could be wastage, certainly within the system.
There could be.
But is this the way to go about it?
No, not my opinion isn't. But that many people taking a buyout is these people are running scared.
And actually the worry is also when you actually get the department up and running again, do you have enough people? I mean, we know that Musk basically decimated Twitter as was when he moved in. And we've lost a lot of things that used to go along with Twitter. Now it's become X.
Well, a lot of people also have to remember that in Trump's first term, he didn't hire people quickly enough, and he had cabinet positions, he had sub-cabinet positions that were not filled, and so consequently, a lot of work did not get done. And he was playing catch-up for 4 years, and that's clearly what's going to happen here. If you let 20,000 people go to take buyouts, you got to find another 20,000 people, or let's just say.
Well, you'd think it would be as well. Sorry, the elder parts of the workforce who think, okay, I can manage. If I get my money now, I can go and I'll be all right. But if you lose the top end of your workforce, you're losing all of the experience and the knowledge, aren't you? So wow.
I think a lot of these people are career politicians. They're not, but there are probably some Democrats in there, probably looking at things saying, I don't want to put up with another 4 years of this. I'll take the money. I'm young enough. I can take the buyout and I'll just go on my merry way. But I can you imagine being a young person with all sorts of financial responsibilities, and you don't necessarily buy into the
and you actually won't be you won't really be getting a lot of money if you take the buyout now. If you just started, will you really? I wouldn't.
That's
imagine.
Very true.
So, tell me about special government employees. Anything with the word special in this respect, like the special operation that we see in Ukraine. What's it all about?
Well, we don't really know what it's about. He came up with this term.
Super volunteer.
He's a super volunteer, meaning he's not
getting paid.
He's not getting paid, but
he's not been vetted.
He has not been vetted, and he's got all sorts of responsibilities and duties that are given to somebody who is in an actual paid position. Frankly, as we know, he does not need the money. He's got an office that is near the Oval Office. He's in the White House complex, so he's got the president's ear, to say the least. I still contend, as I have the past couple of months, that eventually there are going to be too many roosters in the hen house, and I think there are going to be problems. It's only been 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens.
All of these big goats butting heads.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
What about USAID, as it's known? Musk branded it a criminal organization that should die, quote unquote.
Well, USAID, as everybody has probably heard, is the organization that Trump does not have the right to fire. He does not have the right to disband it, and neither does Elon Musk. These people are appointed by Congress, and so the only way you can let these people go is by a congressional vote. This is the organization that gives the money to all the countries around the world, and the U.S. is the largest benefactor and the largest distributor of
just to put it into context,
money.
It provides milk to thousands, millions of babies across America.
Yeah, of course, and not only that, but they give money to American institutions, but also to Ukraine and also to Uganda and 200 other countries. Mm-hmm. 2 other countries. So.
And that's just basically been stopped.
He stopped it. He put a pause in it for 90 days, I believe, and we'll see what happens there. But, it's... Because
they've already been in the Treasury, haven't they, and stopped the money going anywhere.
No, and so that means that the money's not going out. But if you're in Ukraine, if you're in Israel, if you're in Uganda, you're not getting milk. You're not getting things to build your roads, and you're not getting normal aid. So, I think I've said this before. I don't have any problem looking at something, going, hey, there's a new sheriff in town, and I'm going to look at every line item. I'm going to look at everything, at every dollar that goes out. But to flat out just go, we're not going to do anything for 90 days. Well,
Seems a bit irresponsible. We can clear up the fact about the military aid going to Ukraine, because there was some doubt and weren't quite sure, but actually over the weekend they did confirm that the military aid that was promised is still going into Ukraine for now.
Yeah.
For now. Okay, right. I'll get another look at what's happening right now. Meanwhile, just before we go to the break, let's take a look at one of the other stories. It's not a short one either. Tariffs, and more tariffs. So, Canada and Mexico and China were in the firing line directly, and then they weren't. So, did he back down, or was it the right way to go about it to get them to compromise? It depends who you are and which way you look at it, right?
He got what he wanted, and he did it by threatening these countries, and that's what he's doing with everybody. He's threatening the UK. He's threatening Germany.
EU.
The whole EU. He really likes being feared more than anything. That's
I'd like to be loved first. I don't know. Is it
It's
feared?
good to be loved. Better to be. In his case, it's better to be feared. I don't think he had any intention of imposing all these tariffs on Canada and Mexico. His his whole intent was to get them to increase the amount of people on the border. His main focus right now is on fentanyl. The U.S. has a huge fentanyl problem.
So drug trafficking, people trafficking.
Drug, exactly.
Both borders, Canadian and Mexican.
Right, and he's trying to get both countries, and they both blinked. And they both
25% tariff?
Yeah,
that's what he was saying.
Well, that's not going to happen for quite some time, and I think Trudeau and the president of Mexico both
Claudia Sheinbaum.
Yeah, they both said, "Hey, we're going to put 10,000 people on each border, and we're going to keep people from coming into the U.S. or going into the U.S., and we're going to see if we can keep drugs from going in using their National Guards."
See what I mean? It depends on which way you look at it. Who blinked first here?
Well, clearly they blinked. But the big question is whether or not he even intended to put these tariffs in place. He was just trying to shake the box up a little bit and getting them scared into doing that. And that's exactly what he's doing with the EU.
So I love this, like your closest neighbours, 25%, China, 10%.
Yeah, that's very true.
So that one's gone through, still going through.
Both countries had to remind him, we are your allies.
Closest neighbours.
And we're your closest neighbours, and we're your best pals.
I wonder whether it was the Canadians' sports crowd booing the American national anthem had anything to do with it.
Oh, my God.
There's one bit on Saturday Night Live where one of the commentators said, "I can't believe this. Look, we've even upset the nicest people on the planet."
That's very true.
Canadians.
And Americans love Canadians, and Canadians love Americans overall, but they did. The national anthem was played at a basketball game and at a hockey game, and as it always is. And it's not a big thing here in Europe, the whole national anthem, but it was done, and we got a nice round of boos.
Okay, 30 days for Canada and Mexico. China, meanwhile, have pushed back, haven't they, imposing retaliatory tariffs on loads of American products, 15% on coal, liquefied natural gas, 10% on crude oil and agricultural machinery.
That one is good.
They can both handle this, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
Between them, this is that sort of thing.
Yeah. This is the battle of the Titans, and this one is going to go on for a while. The car thing is a big thing because China does not is big into the auto industry right now.
Well, that involves Musk as well, because he does produce some of his cars in China, doesn't he?
He does. His hands are in.
They really are.
His fingerprints are on this thing. But the fact is that Chinese do not import many U.S. cars. They are trying to break into the U.S. market, but the U.S. is fighting back. And I think I'm correct in this saying, because it was true, that the U.S. does not import any Chinese cars, mainly because of the way the data is collected inside the cars. Saying it's a TikTok thing. When you start your car, that information goes directly back to China. At least that's what the feeling seems to be. And so
we are also, Canada are basically saying, well, we're not going to drink your beer. And they're stuck with Molson. Wow. Yeah. And also there was another story, Mum's just pointed that out, where apparently they cancelled a $3 billion project for Starlink. So that's going to get up Musk's nose, as it were.
Musk, that's right. Musk owns Starlink, and that's a done deal. That's a way to get somebody's attention.
Isn't it?
Well, this whole thing is
it's nice to see somebody else getting a bloody nose for a change.
I know, but that's $100 billion? Is it $100 billion?
I can't remember what it was now.
But it's a huge deal, and yeah, you're right. That's a good way to put it, a bloody nose. But clearly, the whole conflict of interest, giving Musk all this attention, giving him all this authority, at the same time, he owns companies that are have their tentacles in the U.S.
Definitely a conflict of interest.
Huge conflict of interest.
All right. The U.S. buys more from the EU than it sells to them. They're bad people.
Well, they're bad.
He said, I saw him say that. They're bad people. It's very, very bad.
They're bad people. Yeah.
It's very, very bad.
But he also said that the UK was not as bad
not
as
as bad
others.
as them. Not as bad. We think we can get something worked out there.
But he's got his sights really set on Germany. That's really what it is. And Germany only exports one major thing to the US.
Germany's on its backside. What is it that Germany exports to the US?
What do you think?
Cars. But they're not doing brilliantly. Let's face it. They're 3 years in recession. So
it doesn't matter where you go in the U.S. You're going to run into Mercedes, BMW, Audis, and Volkswagens. And
there's got to be a lot more MGs around soon, mate.
Oh my God! I don't know if people
Made
know.
in China.
Made in China.
You be careful. Right. So
I wasn't, but I didn't even know that.
It is cars. That's what he's going for.
I can't think of anything else that
to be honest, I wouldn't really want to trust myself in an American boat on a German autobahn. To be honest, that's maybe why you don't really sell that many cars in Germany. They do some.
I know.
They do some, but yeah,
they do some. But it's like if you're making BMWs and Mercedes, why would you buy a Chrysler?
The handling is a little bit different, so that would be worrying on a German autobahn. But anyway,
that's very true.
So, and also, of course, he's always had it in for Germany, even in the last time he was in power, about the money that they spend on defence. Of course, they've upped it since then, perhaps not as far as he might like anyway. So there are other issues there, and we haven't even got onto that yet, as he really hasn't had a go at that one yet. No. So there is a big deficit. So what are we going to see? I don't know what's he going to hit the Eurozone with? Has he said how much yet on that?
No,
another starting 25%. Do you think?
No, I don't know if tariffs are going to be the thing, but it's what he really wants to do is, as everybody can tell us, he wants everybody to buy more American products. Mm-hmm. That's the first prong. The second prong is he wants more American businesses built in the States. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's going to increase the cost of goods because it is more expensive to do business back in the States as it is, getting things from China or India or from Vietnam, for example. But I don't know what that exact number is that he's looking for.
There are some good highlights on this, though. The European Union is one of the largest and most important trading partners with the US. It's its largest trading partner. Mm-hmm. Germany and the Netherlands are the largest importers of American products in Europe. So we could see it could be like a China thing here.
It could be.
We could see a bit of spat going on for a while. Although I do think the Europeans are probably going to play ball, as it were.
I think so, and I think I don't think you're going to see any tariffs. I think you're going to see this thing worked out because it needs to be worked out, and the U.S. is very friendly towards these countries. The whole relationship with China has been difficult for 10 years, 20 years, and mm-hmm. We're friends, we're enemies, we're friends or enemies.
They owe a huge amount of American debt.
We spent a huge amount of American debt.
Something like $3 trillion, or is it more?
Yeah. And so they turn around and everything, it seems, everything, that's an exaggeration, but it seems that everything is made in China. Mm-hmm. And when you get a product, it always says made in China on it. And that's true all around the world. But, in this particular case, you're looking at the fact that all the data breaches and all the...
There are other issues.
There are plenty of issues that you really need to take a look at. And
the Sovereign Wealth Fund might buy TikTok. I mean, for goodness sake. I mean, generally it's countries that have a surplus of money, like Saudi Arabia, for instance. Let's have a sovereign wealth fund and buy Manchester City. Not that it's doing them any good lately, but however, that's the idea. But Trump's come out and said that, hasn't he? We'll have a sovereign wealth fund and we'll buy TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to do that because the government is in debt. It's like we don't have any money, but we're going to buy TikTok with the money that we save by closing down USAID and closing down the Department of Education. We're going to make much money doing that.
So the Brits might not be as bad. We'll get a deal sorted out pretty soon there, he said. But does that mean we're going to have to take the chlorinated chicken? Because we don't want it. We just don't want the chlorinated chicken. The red tops will go mad. You know what I mean by the red top? The red top UK newspapers, they just won't have it.
No, won't have it. No, not acceptable. Gotta go.
But it does. I mean, obviously there are other issues there because he owns properties like golf courses and things in Britain. So there's always a little bit of leeway there, isn't there?
It's also
and apparently, like we were saying that you said that obviously he likes people to listen to him, so he likes to bully people and push people around. But we know he's rather vainglorious, and we'd be quite happy to have a visit with the king at Buckingham Palace and be the American king.
Well, you remember what happened when he visited the Queen and how he walked in front of her and showed completely disrespected. And I don't know what the reaction was in
People
the UK.
Did not tell him how you should behave around a British monarch.
Oh my God! I'm telling you, the reaction in the States was just horrified. I mean, there wasn't anybody who said, "Yeah, he ought to walk in front of that Queen. That's she's so small, she's so old." No, everybody that I talked to or had a comment on this were just horrified at how he just.
I think his quote was, "The UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one can be worked out." So we're all right then.
And I think language is a big part of this thing. I think the fact that it's a country that we've been joined to for 250 years, and
I think it's a bit longer, really.
A lot longer.
I told you about the hat, didn't I? Make America Great Britain again.
Yeah. Oh, you'd like that.
I love the hat.
Oh, you would like.
I love that hat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think they're going to eventually work something out. But he's like the dad who's riding in the back of, who's driving the car, going, "I'll turn this car around if you kids don't shut up." And
takes his ball home.
Yeah.
Playing ball, and it's his ball, and he takes it home.
I'm going to take my ball and go home. Yeah.
The other one's dummies out of the cot, isn't it?
That's kind of what it is.
Dummies out of the cot. Yeah, but we know we should know what to expect for the most part, shouldn't we? Really,
but this is going to go on for 4 years. This is going to be
not at this pace. It can't. Not even he can keep up with that pace. I wouldn't have thought. Do you?
Oh, good Lord.
We might have a Grammy-winning thing for you by the time
I hope so.
Finish today, I would imagine. You like your lovey stuff, don't you? Right.
I do.
So we were talking about who might be next for the sanctions and tariffs issue, and we did mention this earlier. Trump's threatened to cut off all future funding to South Africa. Well, what's that all about?
Certain classes of people are being treated very badly at all. According to Trump on Truth Social, if you dig down,
I've been calling it Trump Social, to be honest with you. I can't bring myself to call it Truth Social.
If you dig into this thing, he's unhappy because the white people in South Africa are being marginalized.
What?
He is taking the side of all the white people that have just given up a lot of their rights back, as they should have, back to Nelson Mandela's party and to the people of color who live there. And
I thought white landowners owned about 3/4 of South Africa's farmland.
Yeah, but he thinks they're being cheated. So I don't know why he's involved in these things. And off the top,
is there Musk's hands on this also? Do you think?
I was going to say, I off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of the guy who's from South Africa, whose fingerprints are on this. So black people make up 80% of South Africa's population. Only 8% are white.
There has been a bill recently, wasn't there, signed by the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, which said that the government have the power to expropriate land without financial compensation. Sounds like what's happening in the States.
It's exactly what's happening in the States. It is exactly what's happening. So we'll see what happens on this thing. But clearly, South Africa is in his sights right now. He and Musk. So
4% black landowners in South Africa. I mean, really.
So
okay,
right. So Musk says that the country has openly racist ownership laws, but okay, if you say so.
Also in the firing line, apart from the department, well, we'll get to education, but first of all, the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities. What have they done now?
The Committee on Arts and Humanities, what they've done is they have
proactive hostility, he's accused them of.
Exactly. What they do is they have a bunch of big names on that. Lady Gaga's on that. It's just a committee. It's not a government agency or anything. It's a committee that was established in 1982 under Reagan. And over the years, it became a platform for figures in the arts, humanities, and academics to engage with policymakers. And a lot of big names have been on that, like Lady Gaga, as I mentioned, George Clooney, John Batiste, Shonda Rhimes, who is a well-known producer of Grey's Anatomy and other things. But it's got a small budget.
Sinatra wasn't he? Also on the...
That may be.
Yeah.
That means you're right. Sinatra was on that, but the budget is only $335,000, and they don't meet all the time. They only meet like once a year, and you know what they try to do is call attention to the arts and try to give a little bit of money here and there to people who kind of need them.
For the arts. It was closed down in 2017. Joe Biden picked it up again in 2022. Yeah. So anything that Joe Biden did, we don't like anyway.
It's got to go. It's got to go. It's terrible. So, it's a waste of it's a waste of money.
More importantly, the Department of Education could be dismantled. Trump and his advisors. This is also part of Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, who may well... hang on, let's just hope they don't just send all the kids home while they sort it out. Because if he does that like they did at the USAID, basically all these kids are going to be running the streets, right? They won't be in school.
There are a lot of people, though, before this happened who felt that the Department of Education was kind of a wasteland.
Fair enough, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, you don't. And all the
kids onto the streets without education.
All you kids, go home.
I can imagine.
Just go home. And by the way, do your homework. I mean, but there is a Department of Education, and under that, every state has a Department of Education, and under that, every town's got a Department of Education, every county's got a. So
that sounds to me like the legislation on this. Yeah, a lot of bureaucracy, but it sounds to me like the legislation, all the rest of it, the bureaucracy, it's devolved. So how much again does central government have to say or do in this? I suppose if it's funding it mostly, then it does.
Well, the point is that there are a lot of people who make their living with this, and there probably is a lot of fat that needs to be cut when you've got this much bureaucracy. So, as I said before, I think the way to do it is say we're going to take a look at it. We're going to try to trim this. There are a lot of people making very big salaries who have these jobs, and essentially what happens in the states is that the states can often overrule, what the federal government does. The states have the capability of saying the reason why that the levels of education in Mississippi and Alabama are different than they are in Massachusetts and California, all over the country.
Well, I guess, that can produce wastage, but then again, you lose the independence and you're bringing everything back into one way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What I do find strange is that it's the World Wrestling what's it called these days? Executive? Entertainment. World Wrestling. Linda McMahon, who he's got up for Education Secretary.
And she said she's going to do away with the Department of Education. So he said, I'm going to put you in charge of the Department of Education. And she said, that's good because I want to do away with my job. Okay. It's opposite day.
I hope we have time to come back to that next week to see what's happened. If we can keep up, basically.
Well, we'll be covering it in our third hour here.
Greenland hasn't gone away. No. It's not for sale either.
It isn't. Well, they sent Marco there, little Marco, and Marco said. He said.
You mean Secretary of State Marco Rubio? He's been covering some air miles.
He has, but. A lot of people think it's a joke.
It's not a joke.
He says it's not a joke. Trump said that he's going to make the territory of Denmark part of the U.S. He's not ruled out using military or economic power to persuade Denmark. Now he's trying to pick a fight with the Danes.
Well, really, have you heard about the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But also Europe aren't very happy about that as well. They're already weighing in and saying that they're going to support them anyway, either way, but...
There already is a military base on Greenland, a U.S. military base. I don't see any need for this. I don't know why you need Greenland to be part of the country, but again, this is the bully thing that kind of irritates me. And
speaking of which, that's on to our next story as well, because we did mention Panama Canal last week, and basically they've been told, Panama, to reduce the Chinese influence in the canal or face U.S. action. So here we go, more bullying.
Well, what has been looked at right now is Trump seems to think that the Chinese are offering a lot of undue pressure on Panama, that the Chinese are in charge. There is
two bases or two areas of influence on the canal, and
there is a bridge that was built by and is owned by the Chinese. I don't know how you managed to do that. Get a bridge that's
Chinese money.
That's granted. But the Chinese walked in and go, "I'm going to build this bridge." And
no, we don't want.
And by the way, they will say, that sounds great. But another thing is that it's Chinese owned, so they control the fate of that thing.
I did read that some of the concern about China having perhaps bases in different parts of the world, you know, economic bases or, you know, economic influence in the fact of maybe having built a bridge, the Panama Canal or various bases in the sort of Arctic, if you like, is that if the balloon goes up, they'll very quickly be turned into military area.
I get that.
That's a worry. It's almost like the commies in the 60s. So,
well, I don't want to be naive about it, but clearly...
But it does seem to be a big worry in that sort of vein, as we saw, you know, like, you know, back in the day when the communists were blamed for everything.
There are a lot of people in the U.S. say that once the Chinese take hold of a certain area, they don't let go, and it's because of they're a huge military power. Yeah. They're a huge financial power. Economic power, of course. But there's nothing right now in Panama that indicates that there's any undue pressure, except for that one bridge, that there's a lot of annoyance that the U.S. doesn't have a bigger footprint down there. And I can remember when Jimmy Carter made the pronouncement back in, I think it was like 75 or 76, and he said, we're going to give Panama back to the Panamanians, and you know, a lot of Americans said, "Yeah, that sounds great. That's the way it ought to be."
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Nobody at that time anticipated that it was going to become such a flashpoint, especially with the Chinese.
All right, we've got time for one, but we'll fit in two because all of these things might not matter. Because a city-killer asteroid is hurtling towards the Earth. Scientists are warning of its potential impact. All our troubles may be over before they even started.
It's on its way, baby. The Y4, it's the size of a football field, between 130, 300 feet wide. Could hit Earth, they're saying, in 2032. December 22nd, 2032.
2032? That's not far away.
It's not far away. But it's moving at a rate that the potential crash sites include the Eastern Pacific Ocean, northern South America, the Atlantic Ocean, Africa, the Arabian Sea, the South Asia. That pretty much covers half the Earth.
Okay.
It could so basically, it could land, it could hit somewhere.
Remember the dinosaurs?
But it said only 1%. There's a 1% chance that it's going to hit something.
Well,
I'm not really worried about it.
Maybe Trump can get musky on it and he'll shoot it out of the sky. Go with Bruce Willis and maybe Clint Eastwood, you know, sort it out for us.
Clint Eastwood.
Okay, well, you know, they do that.
120.
They do that sort of thing. Actually, did you see somewhere that woman was telling him to get out of a restaurant because he wasn't properly dressed the other day?
Clint Eastwood?
Yes. She was like, you can't come in here. You're a vagrant.
He said, go on, make my salad.
Anyway, before we go to Beyonce, quick one. We did talk about it last week, but it'll be on before we're back. Caesars Superdome, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles, Sunday at midnight 30 CET. Go on then.
Put your money on the Chiefs. Bet on red.
Okay, fair enough. We'll take that. Meanwhile, you could have put your money on Beyonce for the album Grammy, especially after hubby Jay-Z said last year, how come has she never won it? And then she brings out a country album. It's going to happen. And it did.
Yep. Well, she's doing okay.
She's doing all right.
She's doing all right.
Between them, they got a few quid.
They do. Yeah. They're doing fine.
Yeah, maybe they might get a knock at the door from Mr. Trump to come and help out with the administration. Yep. You know?
Well, and the great look on Taylor Swift's face when she won, going, "Oh, great! I'm going to hand you this award. Great! Oh, you kind of deserve it."
Taylor's been having some really happy times.
She's
recently.
Okay,
and she'll be happy again at the weekend, of course.
She will
with the Super Bowl result. Her and Mr. Kelsey.
Yep, that'll be fine.
All right. Cheers, Rich. See you next week.
See ya.